another edition of Space Invaders TV. Yes, welcome, peace and blessings to you all. Today is Thursday, the last day of September the 30th, 2021, and we are this year is just winding down, coming to a close. I want to say peace and blessings to you all. Peace and blessings to all the children out there. And I hope all the children have a great school year. The teachers as well. God bless y'all all. And thank you for your service and the job that you do, the teachers and administration inside of these schoolhouses. But yeah, as y'all see in the title, what we're going to talk about here. But first, before we get into it, I want to say make sure y'all share the page. If you like the conversations and the topics that I bring forth here, share it with your peers, family members. It costs you nothing. Just share, like the page, make comments. There's no judgment zone here. I'm not judging you guys for how you feel. I just present topics and subjects. More so, I'm all about each one teach one. So I present these topics, and there's not a judgment zone onto with you guys. You say what you feel. You can see some comments. Folks may say things, and I may not say anything. And some folks may say things, and I may respond. But this is all your feelings, as just as well as I'm bringing you my personal feelings or what I may feel sometimes about these situations that I present. We all have our own views on how we view things, and it's not my job to tell anyone how they should feel about whatever I may present. There's not my job, so therefore this is no judgment zone. But welcome to the page again. Like I said, subscribe, like, share it with your peers. It costs you nothing. I'm not asking anybody for a dime, and I just like to talk about local, national, and world issues and things that just and then some of the events may be things you may sit and talk with your family members or friends about or co-workers about. So I just feel compelled to sit down and talk with the people, have adult conversations here. So today, we're going to get into, I want to know how you guys feel about these assessment tests for, for the school children, such as the EOGs, the EOC, the NWEA MAP test. I want to know how you all feel about that. What's your view? What's your standpoint on that? Once again, this ain't no judgment zone, but I would love to see the responses and comments of how you feel about that. And so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna dive into that. We're gonna talk about the founders of these assessment tests. We're just gonna dive into how is it the effects of these tests. What are the effects? What is the end goal here? How is it helping? How is it helping the children? And we're gonna also talk about opting out of those tests as well. So yeah, let's dive in. And so this week here, like I said, this is the last day of September. This is September the 30th, 2021. So some students around Guilford County here. I know my daughter had they started taking the NWEA MAP assessment test. And with NWEA, if no one never knew what it meant, it's the Northwest Evaluation Association. Yes, that's what NWEA stands for, if you did not know. It's the Northwest Evaluation Association. And uh, the test, but let's, before we go on, we think about what that last word I just said after broke down abbreviation, the association. So immediately, association, my brain goes to corporations, big business. That's what my mind, when when I found out exactly what the NWEA stood for, my mind immediately went to that. So when we talk about these tests, you want to say, they said, when I tried to look up like the NWEA, when I tried to, and I looked into the EOG, EOCs, I wanted to find out who actually created these exams. That the states present, because every state may not call it the same thing. They may call it something else. Um, like when I was in school, for instance, and this topic, a lot of topics I talk about, I can relate to them. So like this topic so me talking about these test exams, really, you know, I've always been like, who created this? So first and foremost, before we go in, like these tests always feel as though they're like, I don't want to say it's wrong. I always feel like these tests, like when they test when they test children, it's like they're trying to use children as science projects. And I say that so much so because I took a test here, right? Back in 1995, April the 30th, 1995, and I have the certificate here, right? And it was called the HSPT Review Project, okay? Um, and it was a cluster test presented by Rutgers and NJIT in New Jersey, okay? And it was a week long thing. I mean, a week long thing. And our class was the first class in 1995 to take this exam, the HSPT Review Project. And it was a review project. They wanted to see how we did, and if our class, I don't know if all the classes in 1995 across the country took this test, or was it just the class of 95 in New Jersey at the time. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But it what we weren't being the tests we weren't being held, like we had to score high grades on this test or whatever. They wanted to see how we did on this test. And if the way we scored on this test was going to tell them that, and let them know, and that this test could be presented to the rest of the country. They could present this test to the rest of the country. Now, like I said, I don't know if this HSPT test was presented to all the classes of 95 across the country, but I do know in the state of New Jersey in 1995, this test was presented to us. And we took this test. And as I said, and as it says here, I'm going to show you guys. I'm trying to see. That's it. All right. So my class was one of the classes that took this test, and I always felt, like I said, like with these tests, states and everybody and all folks who are involved in these assessment tests, I feel like they use us as guinea pigs. And even though when we did that test back in '95, the HSPT review test, it really drained me that whole week, because I mean we were taking sections, math, reading, writing, and they were for a few hours long, you know, because one day, of course, you took the reading, the next day the math, the English, and so forth, you know, and it was really it was draining at the end, you know, and pretty much it was so much so it was like the whole school day because you got breaks in between those tests. You know, when you took those tests, whatever day, whatever subject it was for that day, you got a break. And I think you may have got like a, between the times, you may have got like a 30-minute break. But what I remembered the most at that time, man, I was really drained after taking that test. And we were administered other types of state exams, but that right there had really drained me. So I go on to say, like, so I went and I dug deep and I said, as of lately, I went and I dug deep and I'm like, who created, who's behind these exams? So first up, when I looked up the EOGs, I put in who created the EOGs. So what I found, it was a gentleman named Henry Fischel. Henry Fischel is actually a German. He was born in Germany. He's a German man, and he was a professor and at the University of Indiana. And but he was born in Germany, and in Bonn, Germany, to be exact, in the 1930s. And so his name came out with his picture. He's the he. They say he founded. He's the inventor of assessment tests. So then I dug deep. I dug some more, and then that's not true. He may have found. He may have been the first. He was the first in the United States. You know, the first in the United States, but China was the first because China uh, created the first assessment test in the year 605 during the Sui dynasty. So Henry Fischel, when you look him up, they always because like I said, when I looked up, I tried to find out who created who's behind the EOGs and the EOC, who's behind that. And when I Googled, like I said, Henry Fischel came up, and they said that he was the first to invent the test, the assessment test. He was the first. And I'm like, no. Once I dug some more and I found like China and was the first one back in the year 605 during the Sui dynasty. So I'm like, okay, so Henry Fischel could have been, he's the first one. Nobody else. I didn't find anybody else. They didn't have no other names after him that invented assessment tests. He was the only person that kept popping up. So, he was the creator. Henry Fischel was the creator of assessment test. But as I dug deeper and tried to look into more Henry Fischel, I'm like, but how are you inventing something, and when were you inventing something? You invented something during the 19th century. So we're still using those same uh, blueprints today in the 21st century. We have to elevate. Things have changed. Yeah, you may be giving these tests online and everything, but we have to change the way that we are doing things. We have to meet these children where they stand. So I go on and then I look into, you know, the NWEA, the Northwest Evaluation Association, the MAP assessment. So what I find there, I find it's a gentleman named Alan Olson. he created the MAP, the NWEA MAP assessment test. And looking into Alan Olson, he was a former governor in the early 1980s of North Dakota. He was a governor of North Dakota that created the Northwest Evaluation Association, the MAP test. And the NWA is actually based now, where they are based in Portland, Oregon today. But I'm trying to figure out, so I start digging and I'm like, okay, Henry Fisher was an American businessman and a philanthropist. He, they say he taught at this university. Can't find anything else on him but that. And I'm saying, okay, this guy, Henry Fisher created the EOG. Then Olson created, the NWEA. And I'm saying these two guys don't match up here. Like, how are we having these people created something in the 19th century? Well, the map was created in the 20th century actually, but we still are doing. These people created these things, and we're in the 21st century now. And yeah, all they done was take some of the things now, and some of the kids today may be taking tests on the computers versus back at my time in school we were doing circling in the bubbles on paper. We did ours on paper, and they may have put them through a computer to make sure that the test to score your exam, but we did ours on paper. So yeah, only thing today, they have technology, so now the children may be taking their tests on a computer today, but you're still using the old formats. It's still old ways. It's still, we have to elevate, and we have people creating different things that are even confusing the kids, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. So we're 5 weeks into the school year here, and I'm trying to figure out, well, for my child anyway, we're 5 weeks because my child was part of her school was one of the schools that were one of the restart schools. So I'm figuring, and I'm saying, why we just why our kids are just 5 weeks into school? Anybody that's childless in a restart school, why are they've been in school for 5 weeks and we already taking the MAP test, the NWEA, the Northwest Evaluation Association test? Why are we taking those tests already? And when pretty much my child's been in school for 5 weeks and only had 2 weeks of homework, only got homework for 2 weeks so far. And what we were told during the open house was, during the parent teacher, when we met with the teachers, they were like, oh yeah, we're just gonna be starting the kids off slow. We're not gonna be, we're just gonna be getting the children reacclimated, with everything. And then we find out, oh, they're going to be taking a test this year. They're going to be doing the MAP test. And I'm like, why are we, why are we doing this MAP test again? And it's supposed to help and let you know where the children stand right now. And I'm like, okay, so you scrapped the EOG and the EOC. Okay, from during the pandemic, you scrapped it for whatever reason. For many reasons. I ain't going to say for whatever reason. Because you didn't have you didn't have adequate people to check the tests. You didn't have, a lot of kids probably didn't even take the test. So it's so many factors. It was, during the height of COVID last school year. So I'm saying to myself, okay, if the children been taking these exams like the MAP, the NWEA, the MAP assessment test, and it's supposed to assess the children and let the teachers know where the children stand. Now I understand the concept behind it, but I'm saying, how does this fare for children such as so we want to talk about restart schools, and we want to talk about schools that's failing, districts failing districts. How is this helping, and why are we still doing these type of tests? Because it doesn't seem like they're doing any help. Why are we not scrapping these tests? Why are we keep stressing the children out with these type of tests that's not really helping? And especially at this time when you don't have adequate and enough teachers on hand to help out and really do what this this assessment uh, was intended to help the education system do, which is let you know where the students are uh, academically, and then you are to put things and measures to help these children get there. So my question is, if you have a class, I'm just being modest here. If you have a class with 15 children in them, because let's be honest here, different parts of the country, when you go up to the north, when you get to the bigger cities and bigger counties around the country, you can have 20, 25 students in a classroom, you know. And if you have half of your classroom below average, how do you help them and the rest of the class is average and then above average? How are you helping? What are you doing? Because your lesson plan, and I'm just trying to understand something, y'all help me out, you know, or we all may be on the same page with this thing here. But how are you going to help if half of your students, and if you have a lesson plan, and you have to follow this plan, how are you going to help these students that are below average and average? Because you also want to bring the average up because they're bordering, right? So you want to bring them up. Then you have the below average. You got to bring them up to get them to average, because you can't just shoot them up because it's a process, right? So then you got to get those that's below average to average, and then you want to hopefully, before the school year is over, get them to above average. You know what I mean? Because obviously if they're performing below average, they're not even on their grade level. So it's like, how are you able to help that? Now that's more work right there. So this MAP assessment test was designed, I understand what it was designed to do, but let's just, like I said, this test, the MAP test, was presented by a man that was a governor of North Dakota. I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful to anybody from North Dakota or anybody from Portland, Oregon, or from Oregon, period. I got people in Washington State. I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all. What I'm saying, what I'm about to say is this. Someone in North Dakota, the way they're learning their lesson plans, the way, you know, they might not even be on a level of someone in the Southwest or the Southeast or the Northeast. They're not even going to be on a level of anyone in the Northwest. So then now we have a assessment test being presented by someone that's from North Dakota, and it's based in Portland. Mind you, in Portland, the northwest of the country, they're not learning like someone in the Midwest is learning. They're not learning like someone in the Northeast is learning. They're not learning like someone in the Southeast is learning, and so forth and so forth. You feel me? So how are we allowing someone from another part of the country to present something to the rest of the country when we all don't learn the same? You know, how is that even possible? And who are these people? So it's like when I'm looking up these two gentlemen here, Alan Olson, when I look up these two gentlemen here, Alan Olson and actually Alan Olson and George S. and Gabo, they are the ones. I forget about this George S. and Gabo. Those are the two who created the NWEA MAP assessment test. But George S. and Gabo, I really didn't find anything on this guy. No, I really couldn't find anything on him. You know, he's like pretty much what I found on George S. and Gabo was like he presented like he created a chart pretty much in lame terms. He created like charts of basically how children learn, why they may fail, why they may get probably like flustered when it comes to testing. Like he did those type of, you know, he really didn't, you know, he really didn't do anything. But Alan Olson, I try to figure like, what is your connection? Like, you don't have no connection to education. How are you presenting a test like this? You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you presenting, and then why are we still using something like this if it's not helping your district? You know, why are you using this for your schools? Because you have schools performing below average. So we have here in Guilford County, North Carolina, just to make an example. So we come back to school, and you have over a dozen schools that are in all of a sudden this school year that are restart schools. So restart schools are schools performing below average. That's what they are. But then when they get back in school, so they have just been in school over a little 5 weeks to be exact. Because my daughter went back to school in Guilford County here August the 16th. Okay, so we looking at five weeks or so. My daughter's been back in school, and already they giving this test when they haven't really had no adequate homework like that. They may, out of the 5 weeks, they got 2 weeks of homework so far. Okay, and from what I'm saying, I'm trying to figure out how the homework that was given. I don't see nothing that coincide with this test, this MAP test. So I'm like, and during the parent-teacher open house, we were told that, oh, we're just going to be getting the children reacclimated because we know last year during COVID, you know, the remote learning, yada, yada, yada. So we're like, okay, cool. You know, it's like they were just going to be slowly breaking the kids back in, you know. So it's like, okay, now why are we giving this test though? Because obviously you guys been doing this test, you know what I'm saying, for a long time, you know, and it's not helping anybody. This MAP test was created in the year 2000. Okay, uh, this test has been presented to the country, and if districts are still failing, why are we still doing this again? Why are we still doing this again? Because even children in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania are not on the same lesson plans as those in the southeast of the country, or in the southwest of the country, or on the west coast. We're not on the same learning grids. You know what I'm saying? So how are we taking something from somebody that comes from a different part of the country where they may have adequate that this program may work for them. This assessment test may work for them because they may have teachers and things in place to help. But when you're talking about the disenfranchised, when you talk about the inner city schools that are low performing and don't have adequate funding to get what they need, how are these tests helping? These tests don't help. They stress the children out. And so I go back and I say we have to meet these children where they stand. We have to present in front of them what they can relate to. We have to bring education. We have to make this thing relatable to these children. We can't be using things from the 19th century, bringing it into today. These children don't know. You talk to a child about a freaking house phone. How many kids today even know what a house phone? Certain things, that ways of life that most of us come up, And if you were born in the 70s, late in the 60s, 50s, these children today can't relate to the things that we you try. So if it, so even if today, even if you were born in the someone born in the 80s, a child that's born in 2000 will not be able to relate to you if you were born in the 80s. I don't care what year it was in the 80s. A child that was born in the 2000s, the 21st century, will not be able to relate to you. They will not. And that's real spill right now. So why are we teaching these kids something? Why are we still holding on to these old ways of educating? It's hurting the teachers. It's not helping the teachers. We have teachers today that's you know what I mean, that's ready to get it in. But if they don't have the tools to teach, they're feeling tied. You have to release and let this thing go and let these children learn. Be free. Step out of the way of these children. We got people. These gentlemen' name I just presented to you guys. Who are they? When is the last time that any of them been in a classroom? I think I hadn't seen anything of them being deceased, so they're both still alive. But when this was presented, when was the time have they ever been in the classroom? Because Henry Fischel was supposed to be a professor, but it was he did nothing with math, reading, what these tests are based on. He done nothing. So it's like we might as well just let Kevin Durant and Shaquille O'Neal. Why don't we Steph Curry? Why don't we just let these guys present tests to the kids? You know what I mean? And it might go over well. Maybe Michael Jordan. Maybe we just might let some real influencers create tests for grade schoolers. You know, public school students. Why don't we just let them? It might actually be very interesting, and it might actually be impactful. But we don't even know these people who created these things here, the mindsets of these guys. I just told you one guy was a freaking governor. Now I'm all for being a person to wear many hats, because I wear many hats. But we gotta relax here. If you have never stepped in the arena of education, how are you presenting something of this magnitude like a test? So we got this guy, Allen Austin. You were a governor. Nowhere that I read about this gentleman that you had any dealings with education. And so I say, how does this help anybody? And then they're taking a test that's you got the EOG, EOC, 180 minutes long. You can have the reading section could be 180 minutes long, which equivalents out to be 3 hours. Then you have the math can be 120 minutes, which equivalents for 2 hours. The NWEA, the Northwest Evaluation Association test, the MAP test, that ranges from 40 to 75 minutes. Okay. Why are we not if we're going to give the EOGs, why are we not giving it that amount of time? Why are we giving these tests? Why are we drilling these kids' brain like this? Especially if you know that you giving a test in a district where they already failing, and you continuously keep giving this test, and you have these tests like the NWEA test, the MAP test, which is given 3 times out the year, in the spring, in the fall session, spring session, and before the end of the year, the summer. Actually, these kids are taking that test. Why are we giving that? And then you have the EOGs. So one of these things need to be tossed out, man, because the EOGs, nobody agrees with that too much. I'm really not feeling this. If you're gonna do the map test, then you need to make sure that the districts the districts that administer these tests, that they have the adequate uh, manpower to do what this test intended. Because if not, it's no purpose of doing this test. There's no purpose of doing the map test, and it's a waste of time and it's added stress to these children. That just doesn't need to be. And I go back to say, this just brings me back to this: get out of the way of the children. If you are running these school districts around the country and you know that you have this map test, the Northwest evaluation map test, and it's not helping, and it hasn't been helping your district. If I see this as a parent, and I see this, and I don't work in the education system at all, then you have to see it. And if you're not dealing with it, then you don't care. It's just a game. So I go back to say, for our district here, for our school district, Guilford County, North Carolina, Sharon Contreras, get on your damn job. Because you have a restart schools, you have a dozen restart schools. You're giving them this map test, a map assessment test, okay? The Northwest Evaluation Association. How many years are you going to continue to evaluate children and get the same response? You know what they say about you keep doing the same thing over and over again and looking for a different result? It's insanity. So why are you keep doing this madness? Why are you continuing this cycle? Get rid of this test if it's not working, if you can't put the people in place to do what this test intended to do. Now, I'm all for it if you're going to test children to see where they at, but I don't agree with doing it 3 times a year. Why do you need to do it 3 times a year? Why do you need to give a map test 3 times a year? I'm cool. I would agree with 2 years. I would say what's more suitable was 2 times a year. Okay. Before the winter session is up, you give the test maybe around November-ish, give the test November, December, before the children go on winter break, present that test, and then in the springtime, present that test. So now you got different times of the year. The kids come back in school, they got reacclimated, and then you get to see where they really at, But at the same time, you having your teachers, all of this stuff has to coincide for any of this stuff to work, okay? So if it's not going to work, get rid of the map test. Get rid of it. If it's not, if your students are still performing this, like I said, the map test was presented in the year 2000, okay? So it was presented in the year 2000, okay? And if you've been doing this test for all of these years and it has not helped your school district, get rid of it. What do we keep playing these games for? But I know why. Because you get federal funding. Yeah, you get federal funding. So just like our district here, we just have a superintendent, Sharon Contreras, that just added fuel to the fire and made it worse and try to make it seem like our children, at least in this county, they're low achievers by saying, oh, and by the way, these are the restart schools because they underperforming. So these are the restart schools. So you say these are restart schools. So what does that bring you guys? That brings you more money? Because now you actually identify these are the schools right here. These are our problem schools right here. When that's not it. You have bright students. These children are bright. We have to remember one thing only. These kids were born into this technology where we were doing things manually. The way we learned writing in our bubbling, circling the bubble on the test, that was manual. That is classified as manual today. These kids were born in a digital age, okay? These kids were born in a digital age, and as I've said many times before in the past, these kids are born and come out of the womb swiping phones and tablets. These kids will cry if you snatch the tablet away from them or snatch a phone away from them. When we were children, we played with fake phones. There wasn't even no such thing as computers. If we would have seen that tablet, we wouldn't even know what that. We probably would have never touched it, because if we were kids, we knew that looked like something just for adults. These kids, no, they know automatically today. They have their hands on the pulse of the world. We have to stop trying to play with these kids' mental and trying to make these kids feel like they are less than. I want to talk to every kid right now and let you know that you are great. You are awesome. You are brilliant. No matter what you think. Never let anyone make you feel less than. Don't even do it to yourself. You never tell yourself you're not great. You tell yourself, I am a winner. I am going to win. I am going to succeed. I am the best. And always think you're the best. Every child should think they are the best. And if you all think you are the best, guess what? We're going to have a wonderful world because of you guys. So never stop believing in yourself, and never let anyone think you are less than great. You are somebody. Remember that. Rashawn told you that. I'm always down with your student lives matter. And let me tell you, adults, something that's running these school districts around the country. Stop the BS, man. You will see so much more out of your district if you take away these programs that are meaningless, that are not doing anything, as far as these MAP tests. The Northwest Evaluation Association, created by a gentleman named Alan Olson and George S. Ngabo, if I'm saying his last name right. These two people know nothing about, if you ask me at my examination and my findings and my reading, those gentlemen know nothing. Even Henry Fishel knows nothing about testing someone. Henry Fishel created the test in the United States. They try to say he's the creator, period, of assessment tests. He is not. China is. Why wouldn't China be anyway? They have almost half of the world's population. Why wouldn't they be? China has always been known to be more advanced than the United States, especially when the technology come in. They were so far advanced with us in technology. What do you think when we look at our cell phones? Samsung, all these, I could go on and on. What do you think? That's not an American name. You know what I'm saying? They've been ahead of us. Why not? Why wouldn't they? They have 1.300. Let me get it correct here for you guys. They have 1.398 billion people. In 2019, that was their number. That's a lot of brains. That's a lot of thinking. Okay? Sorry about that, folks. That's a lot of thinking. So why wouldn't they be ahead of things? And China was the one that created the assessment test in the year 605 during the Sui dynasty. Okay? So we have to be clear. History will try to tell you one thing. Henry Fishel may have been the first to present it. He was the first to present it to the United States assessment test. here's the reason why tests are given in the United States. But I believe that if he didn't, United States and everybody else would have adapted from China. They would have. Why not? We've taken technology from China. Let's be clear on that. We are in debt with China. One thing I'm gonna tell you guys, and I hate going so deep sometimes. Read the book When China Rules the World. Go to your local library, look it up on a computer, whatever you want to do. Find the book When China Rules the World, and I'm gonna leave it right there when I'm speaking on that. You know what I mean? So we have to get with the times and meet these children we stand. We got the EOGs, like I said. I don't. First and foremost, my thing is I think the whole assessment test thing needs to be revamped, because why are we? It's No Child Left Behind. Okay, that, like I said, it was presented by George Bush. Okay, the No Child Left Behind. Okay, so we're giving these tests like the EOGs. What is it for? Because there's no child left behind, so it's not like you're gonna fail the child because they didn't pass that test. You can't. There's a law, No Child Left Behind. The federal government, all the schools are involved in it, but you have to give those tests. But what I'm saying is, let's find another way to test these children. Let's do things for each region that makes sense, and each school district in these regions that makes sense. Because if not, you're presenting something from someone from a corporation that's out of Oregon. How they're learning in Oregon is not how they're learning in the state of New Jersey, and now how they're learning in the whole tri-state area, period. Okay, or the Northeast, period. Oregon may be more, may make sense for Oregon and California, for Oregon to present something to California and even Colorado, to the mountain states. They may be on the same wave, and then maybe not. California may not even be on a wave of Oregon. But we got to get on the same wave. We got to make sense of this thing. We got to balance out the scale. That is not balanced. Those kids, someone South Dakota, North Dakota, they may not even have the same amount of class. They may be solely strict on how many kids they're going to have in their classroom. They may only have, I don't know, I'm just making an example. They may only have 15, 16 kids in the classroom, where there's schools in the Midwest where you might have 25 children in the classroom. Okay? I know I came up in school, we had 25, 30 kids in a classroom, okay? Because we were in a bigger city, larger school district, yeah. So if you have half of your class, if a teacher has a class failing, when has it ever been the teacher can try to work with a child? But if he or she is only one person, he or she having 20 to 25 students to teach in a class, can't just stop everything, and they have a lesson plan. They have to keep rolling. They got to stay on that plan. They can't go backwards. So they could try to give your child some things, but they're not going to be able to give your child all of their attention if they have almost half of their students performing below average on state assessment tests. And then your district is low performing for one, and then your district don't have the funds to do what they need to do. You don't have the funds to put the people in place, and in this instance, you don't have enough teachers, period. And the government is giving out funding since the COVID, and there's still shortage of teachers in certain districts. So that just makes it worse now. So why are we giving these type of tests that have been given out for years? What are we learning here? So I say to all these superintendents and districts around the country, get your shit together, man. Let's stop playing games and standing in the way of these children, and let's figure out something else. Let's figure out another way to present testing to children, and let's pipe it down on these time limits here with these tests. Let's pipe it down with that, because why are we giving tests 180 minutes, 3-hour long tests and things of that nature? Say, oh, we give breaks in between. Why are we giving tests that long? Okay, this is what I mean. What I'm saying, we're in modern times, but we're still using ways of the 19th century. So we're in modern times, but when we took those tests back in the day, yeah, we were sitting for that long, 2 hours taking the test. Yeah, we might have got 10-minute breaks here and there. Every 30 minutes you get a 10-minute break or something like that. And we were manually taking these tests. But now you're doing them digitally. Some places, some may be still doing tests manually in schools. Some schools, some districts may still be doing manual tests. I don't know. But for the most part, I know most will have to be doing them digitally. So you're doing digitally and still using old ways, and still the whole system is an old system. So I'm saying, man, come on now. We got to get better. We got to get better. It's not making any sense. And I just wanted to come on and talk about these things, and just wanted to get you guys feel on what y'all felt about your child being presented these state exams. Oh, and before I go, North Carolina is a no opt-out state. So you have certain states around the country that can opt out of these tests. You can North Carolina is a no opt-out state, but you can decline to take the test. So you'll have to write you can either do two things: not send your child to school during the testing periods, or you can write a letter to your school district and let them know that you don't want your child to perform and participate in these tests. If you're against these type of tests. Now I'm all for testing your child, because you want to make sure that your child is performing. But so I'm not saying throw away all tests. What I'm saying is revamp the test. We have to make sense of these things here? Okay, we have to make sense of these things, and us as parents, we have to stay on our children. We have to make sure we know where our child is at as well. So we just can't let the system tell us where our child at. We have to know education-wise, academically, where our child is as well, performing. And we have to stay up on our child as well. We can't let anyone tell us where our child is at. That's academically. We have to know this. So if a teacher says, I think little Anna is performing, she's having problem with this section of the math. You should be able to agree with that. Like, yes, we're working on that. It shouldn't be you should be in shock knowing this, or you in shock that your child is having a problem with her reading assessments. Like, she's not understanding certain passages. You should know your child's weaknesses. We should not just depend on the education system to tell us where our childs are underperforming at. And but it's because it's all a collective. We all have to work together. So I do agree with our children taking a test, but not as much as they're doing it. What is the point of an EOG and an EOC, and then you got to take the MAP assessment test? Why are we giving all these? It should be just one test, and it should be able to tell you. The test is a test. It should be able to tell you what you need to know. The EOG should be able to tell the last teacher and the present teacher where your child's performance rate is, where they stand. That's all I'm saying. And you have, so like I said, the 3 states that can opt out, of the test of all state exams, tests for K through 12. It's Colorado, California, and Oregon. I found it mighty funny that, you know, the only three states, right? But Oregon more so, I found it more interesting because I said, wow, well, that's what a map test is based out of. Alan Olson has the Northwest Evaluation Association, aka the MAP assessment test, is based. That corporation is based. That association, I should say, is based in Portland, Oregon. So it's funny that they can opt out. But what's interesting me is I want to know what's the performance rate in Portland on that test. Those who haven't opted out, I want to know how many people, how many students they have that have opted out of that test in Portland, Oregon, in an Oregon period. I want to know how many students that might have opted out of that test in North Dakota and in South Dakota and all the Dakotas. I want to know. I want to know what the performance rate is on the test. That is what interests me. And I'm going to do some findings on that. And I'll be letting y'all know. But I want to, because it's mighty funny that they're able to opt out. And I know it's based on all states, their legislation and things of that nature, because it's North Carolina's legislation, all the states' legislation. So you got, out of all of the states, only 3 of them are able to opt out of, you are able to opt out of their state exams. And like I said again, only 3 states in this country is California, Colorado, and Oregon are the only ones that you can opt out of state exams. All other states, you have to look up your state. But from my findings, you can, for the state of North Carolina at least, you can decline it by just not sending your child to school, or for that week of them testing, or you can just send a letter to your school district, and let them know like you don't want your child to participate in those exams. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's my time. I'm your guy Rashawn. I just came on to talk about that today, and I just want to know where you guys stand on that. What do you feel about state exams? How do you feel about the EOC, the EOG, the MAP assessment, aka the NWEA, the Northwest Evaluation Association? How do you feel about those assessment tests? Where do you stand on that? But that's my time. I'm your guy Rashawn, aka Looker. This is Space Invaders TV. It's all about student lives matter, and that's my time. I'll talk with you guys again next week. Peace.